Hello everyone and welcome back. I know it has been quite a while since I did my last video, but I just released the Veve 2023 year in review update on my newsletter, and I thought that I will just make a quick video update to go over the numbers with you together. For those of you who have been following me for longer now, you remember that last year I also did the yearly update for 2022, just looking at the kind of evolution of the usual statistics that I follow on my channel, but for the whole year. So I think the end of the year always is a good opportunity to just go back and look at the data and see what were the main trends or challenges that the year presented. So that's what I also did for 2023. And of course, I think it will come to no surprise of those who follow me that 2023 was the challenging year for Veve, especially when it came to their user engagement and also attracting new users. Something that is definitely reflected in the data. Especially those of you following me on Twitter as well, what now X, and have been following my kind of monthly market pulse updates. Of course, there were some good months, but mostly we saw a continuous downward trend when it came to our active users. However, when looking beyond just the active user stats and digging a bit more into the specifics of the user engagement on Veve, we will see that not everything has been totally bad this year. So, without further ado, let's get straight into the Veve 2023 a year in review. Let's start with the really bad trend, which again should be to no surprise. So, our average monthly active wallets, they saw a continuous decline over the year. Although we had a slight rebound over the summer months, you can see that the main trend was pretty much declining. And this is especially scary when we see that the average monthly active wallets compared to last year is actually down 84%. That might sound really, really shocking, but just to remember, last year numbers were also highly skewed by the early cohort of 2022. Remember that around April 2022, KYC was introduced. So basically all the period prior to that, we had a lot of these unwanted users on the platform, a lot of bot accounts and whatnot. And they definitely got flushed out of the platform, at least the majority of them. And this was definitely reflected in the trend of the user activity. So that explains why we're down 84% compared to last year. And yeah, the same we see with the new active wallets. Actually, it's a bit worse because we see a decline in 98%. And again, we had a pretty much downward trend with some months that performed a bit better compared to other months. However, while in January we still had approximately 1,500 new active wallets on Veve, it actually dropped down to merely 382 in December, which is pretty sad. There's no other way to put it. So the average for the year was 862, again, pretty much down from last year, where we also again had this skew from the first quarter of 2022. So I think this is really the main challenge, has been really the main challenge for Veve, and will be also the main challenge for them this year in 2024. Clearly marketing and attracting new users and also retaining users on the platform. I know they have done a lot of things in 2023, a lot of new features, a lot of new type of drops. So we definitely see that Veve is trying to bring more exciting stuff and concepts in general to the platform. But still, it doesn't seem it has been enough yet. However, we don't know what goes on behind the curtains, and we don't know what's the strategy for Veve. So, and that's pretty much with the bad news, because now, as I said, if we dig a bit more into specifics of the user engagement, we will see actually some positive trends. So if we move on to, and I will get myself out of the way here, if we move on to month-over-month churn, which basically means a user that has been active in 1 month that does not return the following months. So this is contrary to what would be retention, month-over-month retention, which is a user active this month is also active the next month. This doesn't mean that a user that churned does not mean that the user never returned like in subsequent months. But this is still a metric that is quite interesting for short-term user behavior. And actually we have seen that the average month-over-month churn in 2023 was 33%, and it is down 34% compared to the previous year. So this is actually a really good sign. And although we saw that at the beginning of the year it was quite stable, we did see a slight uptick at the latter half of the year. And my guess is that it was probably due to less appealing drops during that period, especially in September. We saw September was one of the worst months for Veve. And November, I guess it's pretty much has to do with the Comic-Con in October, and that just shows that a lot of users that came in during Comic-Con did not stay on Veve or were not active again the following months in November. So that's why we see pretty much a peak here as well. But we have seen that in December it dropped back again, so this is a good sign. I think if we keep this metric around the 30, or if Veve even manages to lower this rate, then we are on a good way. Next, if we look at the net accumulation, for those of you hearing net accumulation for the first time, it's basically just taking the purchases plus the mints minus the sales of a single user. And this basically reflects if a user is stacking new collectibles or selling off collectibles. So in 2023, we had an average net accumulation of 4.3, and this was 22% higher than the previous year. That means that the users that we have now on the platform are actively growing their collection, and more so than they did last year. So this is also highly positive to see that on average, users are actually continuing to stack collectibles. Of course, this is an average. So we still have users that sell off their collection, and then of course we have our whales that actually buy hundreds of items within one single month. So that's why we can look at the distribution by net accumulation. So we have the net positive accumulation. These are all the wallets that within a month had a net positive accumulation, meaning they purchased more items than that they sold. Then we have in red, the net negative accumulators. So these are all the users that in 1 month sold more items than they purchased. And then we have the net zero accumulators, and these are the ones that actually hold a balance of 0. So all items they bought 1 month, they sold the same month. And here we see a really positive trend throughout the year, because we see that the percentage of net positive accumulators actually increased during the year, while the net zero accumulators, so these are mainly the flippers, they decreased throughout the year. And this also highlights that actually the user base, although it's shrinking, it's becoming more of a collector user base rather than a flipper user base. Next, we can also look at our high net accumulators, aka our whales. So here I just filter out users or wallets that accumulated more than 100 items per month. The percentage of those wallets is relatively small, it's less than 1%. However, it is up 55% compared to last year. So we do have much more dedicated collectors on the app than we had last. And again, we see a bit the trend that the beginning of the year was much stronger than the latter half of the year, but we also see this uptick in December, which is quite promising. So yeah, if Veve continues to grow this statistics, so if we continue to attract like these high net accumulators, these whales, or these committed collectors, this is also a very positive sign. So another thing I looked at were regular wallets. And this is just a concept that I adapted from the mobile gaming world, so to say. And this looks at wallets that have been active at least once in a month, 7 days or more in a row. So that means these are wallets that they have made at least 7 days in a row a transaction on either the primary or secondary market. 7 days in a row. So these are really like high engaged users. And again, so here the percentage is close to 5%, which is not bad, and it is up 20% from last year. So even though we have a small user base on Veve, this core user base is much more engaged, which is totally a good sign if we can keep that trend or even grow this engaged user base. Lastly, and this is something I didn't look at last year, but I wanted to include it this year, is the buyer-seller ratio. So buyer-seller ratio just means the number of unique buyers on the market divided by the number of unique sellers. So of course in each transaction you have a buyer and a seller. However, you have one wallet that has sold 5 items and 5 wallets that bought these items. So then you would have like 1 seller to 5 buyers. So the buyer to seller ratio actually tells us like how strong is like the market in favor of buyers or sellers. And here we also see like a super positive trend. Although the monthly average this year is quite similar to last year, we do see like a significant upward trend like throughout the year. We started at 0.8, which means a seller-dominated market, and we closed the year at a 1.2, which is a buyer-dominated market. This is a really positive sign, basically because you can think of it in terms of supply and demand. With more demand, prices usually go up. So more buyers means more demand. If on the same time we have less sellers, so less supply, this means we can expect the prices of our items to go up. So I'm really excited to watch how this will evolve now in this year 2024. So now, what can we learn from this? Looking at the data from 2023, we've seen that Veve is definitely facing some serious challenges, especially when it comes to attracting new users and retaining users. And it's definitely something that needs to change in 2024 if Veve wants to be a serious player like in the digital collectible space. We definitely need to grow, and I'm really curious about what measurements Veve will take to address this issue and to start growing. Well, but beside from that, we did see that there are some promising shifts actually in the market, from the decrease in the churn rate to the positive net accumulation and growth in regular wallets. It all shows that the user base that is currently active on Veve is more resilient and more engaged, and are definitely more dedicated collectors on the app now compared to last year. And I think that's ultimately also what was kind of Veve's goal. They really wanted to flush out all these bad actors on the app, all those speculators, flippers, bots. And I do think they did a pretty good job to achieve that, as we saw in the data. Of course, there will always be flippers, but flippers is not something that is just a unique phenomenon on Veve. I mean, I think everywhere in the collectible world, you deal with flipper. If it's like Nike shoes or I don't know, any limited edition sales going on, there will always be people that try to take advantage of that. So yeah, we won't get rid of those entirely, but the data shows that Veve made a commitment to make that app more about collecting. And of course, I'm pretty curious to see now with the upcoming bull run in crypto, how Veve will position itself, because it did kind of distance itself from like the blockchain crypto NFT topic. And I think they did it with a reason. So it will be very interesting to see if they will be able to capitalize on the next upcoming NFT hype, which I'm pretty sure will come again with the next crypto bull run. So that's everything I got for you for this update. Please let me know in the description below what your thoughts are on this data. How optimistic or pessimistic are you for this 2024 and Veve? And as always, if you like that video, then don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and share with whomever you think might find this interesting. And finally, if you don't want to miss out on any of my analytics, because I don't always have time to make like a whole video, so I will pivot much more to this newsletter blog format here on Substack, so do check out Veve Fox Insider. Again, link is down in the description below, and you will receive all the analytics I do here, such as the Veve monthly market pulls or some other deep dives I do every now and then. And yeah, I haven't been so active lately, but I do have much more interesting stuff coming up soon. I did hint at it recently on Twitter, X. So I am working on a collector scoring system. And yeah, for those of you who stayed until the end of the video, this is a tiny sneak peek into what this is about. Basically, I am classifying or segmenting all the users on Veve into either flippers or collectors, and what I posted here was just a draft. There will be more granular distinctions, but basically classifying them whether how much of collector versus how much of flipper is a user based on their behavior on the app in terms of selling and buying and selling collectibles. So just imagine like a diamond hand collector will only be someone who sells off almost none of their collectibles, so someone who holds on to the majority, more than 95% of their collection. So this would be like a diamond hand collector, while an aggressive flipper would be the opposite, someone who sells off 95% of their collection. So yeah, this is something I'm super excited about, and I can't wait to share more about it with you, because this will allow for much more interesting analysis. Also, it's something that somewhere it's highly requested, because they see, of course, huge potential in this type of statistics or metrics in terms of identifying collectibles that are more interesting because they are basically in the hands of diamond hand or serious collectors. So much for now. If you want to find more about it, just stay tuned. I'll probably release something about it still this month in January, and yeah, really can't wait to share this with you. That's all for you today. Thanks for watching, and yeah, have a great rest of your day.